The alarm bells rang through Frontier Station Echo at 3 in the morning. Jae-woo Kim rolled out of his narrow bunk and grabbed his tool belt before his feet even hit the cold metal floor. After 5 years working maintenance on this remote space station, he knew that sound meant trouble. He ran down the dimly lit corridors toward the command center. His work boots echoed off the walls as he passed closed doors and sleeping quarters. Most of the station's crew was still asleep, but emergencies did not wait for convenient hours. Commander Sora Park stood at the main display screen when Jae-woo arrived. Her gray uniform was perfectly pressed even at this early hour. She had been a military engineer before taking command of this frontier outpost, and it showed in everything she did. "What do we have, Commander?" Jae-woo asked, catching his breath. Sora pointed at the screen. A massive shape drifted in the darkness of space, barely visible against the stars. "Unknown vessel, no power signatures, no response to our calls." It appeared on sensors 20 minutes ago. Jae-woo studied the image. The ship looked ancient and strange. Its hull curved in ways that human ships never did. Long spires twisted from its main body like the horns of some great beast. Even in the poor light, he could see intricate patterns carved into its surface. "How big is it?" he asked. "Nearly a kilometer long. Biggest thing we have ever seen out." Here, Dongmin Lee entered the command center, still putting on his jacket. The veteran salvage crew leader had gray hair and tired eyes, but he moved with the confidence of someone who had spent decades recovering lost ships and cargo. "Sorry I'm late, Commander. What are we looking at?" Sora turned to face both men. "Unknown alien vessel, dead in space. I need your team to bring it into the main hangar bay." Dongmin whistled low. "That is a big ship for our little station. Are you sure our equipment can handle it?" "We have to try. If there are survivors aboard, they need help. If not, we follow salvage protocols." Jae-woo felt excitement building in his chest. In 5 years at Frontier Station Echo, he had fixed hundreds of broken machines. Mining equipment, cargo haulers, personal ships, even the station's own aging systems. But he had never seen anything like this alien vessel. "I want to go with the salvage team," he said. Sora nodded. "Good. If that ship needs repairs, you are our best hope of getting it working." 2 hours later, Dongmin's salvage ship approached the alien vessel. Jae-woo pressed his face against the small window and stared in wonder. Up close, the ship was even more beautiful and strange. The patterns on its hull were not just decorations. They seemed to flow like water, creating designs that hurt his eyes to follow. "Look at those materials," Dongmin said over the radio. "I have never seen metal that color before." The salvage team worked carefully to attach their towing cables. The alien ship was heavy, much heavier than it should be for its size. It took 3 attempts to get it moving toward the station. Inside the main hangar bay, bright lights revealed the ship's true glory. The hull was not one solid color, but many colors that shifted and changed as Jae-woo walked around it. Blues became purples, became greens, and patterns that seemed almost alive. "Where is the door?" asked Haijin Cho, the station's communications specialist. She had come down to help document their discovery. Jae-woo ran his hands along the smooth hull. The surface was warm to the touch, which surprised him. Dead ships should be cold. He pressed harder and felt the material give slightly under his fingers. "Here," he said. "I think the hull is responding to touch." A section of the wall suddenly became transparent, showing the interior of the ship. Emergency lights flickered weakly inside, casting strange shadows on curved walls. "Amazing," Haijin whispered. "It knows we are here." They found the actual entrance 10 minutes later. It was not a door in the human sense, but rather an opening that formed in the hull when they approached. The edges of the opening pulsed gently. Like a heartbeat. Inside, the ship was unlike anything they had ever seen. The corridors curved and branched like the inside of a living creature. Soft organic shapes covered what might have been control panels. Everything glowed with a faint inner light. "The air is breathable," Dongmin said, checking his scanner. "Strange, but safe for humans." They followed the main corridor deeper into the ship. Their footsteps made no sound on the soft floor. The walls around them pulsed with slow rhythms, and Jaewoo had the strange feeling that the ship was watching them. They found her in what must have been the command center. The alien lay motionless inside a transparent pod filled with glowing liquid. She was beautiful in a way that took Jaewoo's breath away. Her skin was covered in scales that shifted from deep blue to silver as the light played across them. Elegant horns curved back from her forehead, and folded wings pressed against her back. She looks like a dragon, Hyjin said softly. Like the dragons from old Earth stories? The creature's eyes opened suddenly, startling them all. They were large and golden, filled with intelligence and pain. She tried to move but seemed trapped in the failing pod. Warning lights began flashing throughout the ship. A sound like a dying heartbeat echoed through the corridors. The life support is failing, Jaewoo said, reading patterns in the alien displays that somehow made sense to him. She is dying. Hyjin immediately began working with her translation equipment, trying to establish communication. Mathematical symbols appeared on her screen as she attempted to make contact. The alien's eyes focused on Jaewoo. She spoke, her voice like music even though he could not understand the words. But her meaning was clear in her desperate expression. Help me. Jaewoo looked at the failing systems around them. Ancient technology beyond human understanding, dying after countless years in space. Any reasonable person would say it was impossible to repair, but Jaewoo had never been reasonable when it came to broken machines. Get me every spare part we have on the station, he told Dongmin. And find me a power coupling that can interface with these systems. Jaewoo, we do not even know how this technology works, Sora said over the radio. Then I guess I will have to figure it out, he replied. Rolling up his sleeves, the alien dragon princess watched him with growing hope in her golden eyes. She did not know it yet, but she had just met the most stubborn and creative mechanic. In human space. Outside the ship, Frontier Station Echo continued its quiet orbit. None of them realized that this moment would change everything, not just for their small outpost, but for the future of human and alien relations throughout the galaxy. The real work was about to begin. Jaewoo had been working inside the alien ship for 18 hours straight. His jumpsuit was soaked with sweat, and his hands were stained with fluids from alien systems he could barely understand. But he refused to stop. The Dragon Princess lay dying in her pod, and every hour that passed made her condition worse. Jaewoo, you need to rest, Sora said over the radio. You have been at this all day. The ship will not wait for me to rest, he replied, not looking up from the organic panel he was studying. Besides, I think I'm starting to understand how this works. Dongmin brought him another box of spare parts from the station's storage rooms. Any luck with the power systems? Jaewoo wiped his forehead and pointed to the walls around them. Look at these patterns. See how they branch and flow? This ship is not built like our machines. It is grown like a living thing. The salvage leader looked confused. What do you mean, grown? Watch this. Jaewoo pressed his hand against a dark section of wall. Slowly, lights began to appear under his palm, spreading outward like veins. The ship responds to touch, to warmth, to electrical signals from my body. It is not just a machine, it is alive. Hyjin had been working at her translation station near the entrance to the command center. She looked up excitedly. I am making progress with the language. The mathematics are similar to ours, but the concepts are completely different. She played a recording of sounds the ship had been making. They were musical, like whale songs mixed with wind chimes. I think the ship is trying to talk to us. Not the princess, but the ship itself. Jaewoo felt a chill run down his spine. A living ship that can think and communicate. No wonder their technology is so advanced. He turned back to the main power conduit he had been studying. It looked like a massive tree root, thick as his arm and pulsing with faint energy. According to his scanners, this was the main line that fed power to the life support pod, but the conduit was damaged. A section near the middle had turned black and brittle, like a tree branch that had died from disease. No power could flow through the damaged area. I need to bypass this section, he muttered, pulling tools from his belt. The problem was that Human technology and alien technology had nothing in common. Human power systems used metal cables and electronic circuits. This alien system used organic conduits that carried energy like blood vessels carrying nutrients. Jae-woo studied the damaged section for a long time. Then he had an idea that was either brilliant or completely crazy. Hyjin, I need you to ask the ship something for me. What do you want to know? Ask it if it can accept foreign materials. Ask if it can adapt to human technology. Hyjin worked at her translation equipment for several minutes. The ship responded with a series of musical tones that gradually became more hopeful. It says yes, but it has never tried before. It wants to know if you understand the risks. Jae-woo smiled grimly. Tell it that humans are very good at taking risks. He opened his toolkit and pulled out a standard power coupling from a human cargo hauler. It was crude compared to the elegant alien systems, but it was designed to connect different types of electrical equipment. Working carefully, he cut away the damaged section of the organic conduit. Black fluid leaked out, smelling like burnt flowers. The ship made sounds of pain that made everyone wince. Sorry, Jae-woo whispered to the ship. This will hurt, but it will help you heal. He connected the human power coupling to both ends of the severed conduit. The metal device looked ugly and foreign among the organic curves of the alien technology. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the ship began to sing. The organic material around the human coupling started to change. New growth spread over the metal surface, covering it with the same flowing patterns that decorated the rest of the ship. Within minutes, the foreign device had been absorbed and transformed into something that belonged. Power flowed through the repaired conduit. Lights came on throughout the command center, and the life support pod began working properly again. The Dragon Princess opened her eyes, fully for the first time since they had found her. The golden liquid in her pod cleared, and her breathing became stronger. It worked, Dong-min said in amazement. You actually fixed it, but Jae-woo was already moving to the next problem. The ship had dozens of damaged systems, and each one was a puzzle that required a different solution. Over the next few days, he developed a routine. He would study an alien system until he understood its basic function. Then he would find human parts that could serve the same purpose. Finally, he would connect them and let the ship adapt the foreign technology to its own needs. It should not have worked. Human and alien technology were too different. But somehow, the ship's ability to grow and adapt made it possible. The Dragon Princess grew stronger each day. She began to move around in her pod, watching Jae-woo work with curious golden eyes. Sometimes she would make soft musical sounds that Hyjin translated as encouragement or gratitude. She says her name is Velinara, Hyjin reported after one of their communication sessions. She is asking how you know so much about her people's technology. Jae-woo looked up from the control panel he was repairing. Tell her I do not know anything about her technology. I just know how to fix broken things. When Hyjin translated this, Princess Velinara made sounds that could only be laughter. She says that is impossible. Her people's greatest engineers could not repair this ship. How can someone who knows nothing about it succeed where they failed? Because I'm not trying to repair it the way her people would, Jae-woo explained. I am fixing it the human way. We make things work even when we do not understand them perfectly. He showed her a section where he had connected a human computer processor to an alien memory core. The two systems were completely different, but they were communicating through a crude interface he had built from spare parts. Humans are good at making do with what we have. We adapt. We improvise. We find ways to make things work even when they should not. Princess Velinara listened to the translation with growing wonder. Through Hyjin, she asked many questions about human engineering and problem-solving methods. She seemed fascinated by concepts that her people had never considered. She wants to know why humans think so differently, Hyjin said. Jae-woo thought about it while he calibrated a hybrid navigation system. Maybe because we are young. We have not had time to develop perfect solutions for everything. So we learn to be creative instead. The ship's central core was the biggest challenge. It was located deep in the vessel's heart, a massive organic computer that controlled all the ship's functions. But sections of it had gone dark, like a brain damaged by stroke. Jae-woo spent hours studying the core before he understood the problem. The organic computer was not just damaged, it was lonely. It had been designed to work with other similar cores, sharing information and processing power. But this ship had been traveling alone for so long that its core was failing from isolation. His solution was typically human and completely insane. He connected the alien core to the station's main computer through a communications link. Two completely different types of artificial intelligence, learning to talk to each other across the vast gap between species. At first, both systems were confused and frightened by the contact. But gradually, they began to share information. The alien core learned about human logic and problem-solving methods. The station computer gained access to knowledge that was thousands of years old. The hybrid system that emerged was stronger than either computer alone. Princess Velanara's ship began functioning better than it had in centuries, while Frontier Station Eco's efficiency improved dramatically. "What have you done?" Sora asked when she saw the station systems running at peak performance for the first time in years. "I gave them both a friend," Jae-woo said simply. Princess Velanara was finally strong enough to leave her pod. She moved through her restored ship with tears of joy streaming down her scaled cheeks. Everything was working perfectly, better than she had ever seen it. She found Jae-woo in the engine room, making final adjustments to the power distribution system. When she spoke, her voice was like silver bells. "She says she does not understand how this was possible," Hyjin translated. "Her people are an ancient race with technology far beyond humanity. How did you succeed where they failed?" Jae-woo looked at the beautiful alien princess and smiled. "Because sometimes the best way to fix something is not to understand it perfectly, but to care about it enough to try anyway." The ship around them pulsed with new life, human and alien technology working together in perfect harmony. Princess Velanara stood in the main corridor of her restored ship, running her scaled hands along walls that pulsed with new life. The patterns of light flowing through the organic conduits were brighter than they had been in her entire lifetime. She turned to watch Jae-woo as he made final adjustments to a power junction. "Your methods are so strange," she said through Hyjin's translation device. "My people would spend months planning each repair. You just try things until they work." Jae-woo wiped grease from his hands and smiled. "Sometimes thinking too much gets in the way of doing. My grandfather always said the best way to learn how something works is to take it apart and put it back together." Over the past week, as repairs continued, the language barrier had slowly broken down. Hyjin had developed a translation program that worked both ways, allowing real conversations between human and alien for the first time. "Tell me about your people," Jae-woo said, settling down to work on another control panel. "What is your empire like?" Velanara's scales shifted to darker colors as sadness filled her voice. "We were once the greatest civilization in this part of the galaxy. The Draktai Empire controlled 1,000 worlds. Our ships could cross vast distances in days. Our cities floated among the clouds of gas giants." She gestured to the ancient ship around them. "This vessel, the Starfire's Dream, was built by my ancestors 3,000 years ago. It was considered a small personal craft then. Now it is more advanced than anything my people can create." "What happened?" Dongmin asked. He had been listening while organizing spare parts. "We became too proud," Velanara said. "We thought we had learned everything there was to know. We stopped exploring, stopped experimenting, stopped asking questions. When our old machines began to fail, we had forgotten how to build new ones." Jae-woo looked up from his work. "So your empire is shrinking?" "Every year we lose more worlds to younger races who are not afraid to try new things. The Keth Confederation takes our border systems with ships that are crude but numerous. The silicon mines capture our trade routes with logic we cannot follow." Her scales brightened slightly. "That is why I was traveling alone in this old ship. I hoped to find ancient knowledge that could save my people. Instead, I found something better." "What did you find?" "I found humans," she said simply. I found people who are not afraid to fail, who try impossible things just to see what happens. Sora Park had been standing in the doorway, listening to the conversation. Princess, I have been wondering about something. Why were you traveling alone? Surely someone of your importance should have guards, escorts, other ships? Velinara's scales darkened again. I was running away. My father, the Emperor, arranged for me to marry Lord Kexler of the Iron Claw House. The marriage would unite two powerful families and strengthen our military forces. But you did not want to marry him? Hyjin asked. Lord Kexler is cruel and stupid. He believes strength comes only from violence. He would use our combined power to start wars we cannot win, to make enemies of races that could be allies. She looked directly at Jaewu. I wanted to find a better way to save my people. When I saw what you accomplished with this ship, I knew I had found it. The days that followed became a time of learning for everyone on Frontier Station Echo. Velinara shared knowledge of galactic politics, star charts showing safe passage through dangerous regions, and stories of worlds beyond human imagination. In return, the humans taught her about their approach to problem solving. Jaewu showed her how to improvise repairs using whatever materials were available. Dongmin demonstrated human salvage techniques that could recover useful parts from the most damaged equipment. Your people see opportunity where mine see only. Disaster, Velinara observed after watching Dongmin's crew strip useful components from a wrecked cargo hauler. We learned early that nothing should be wasted, Dongmin explained. When you are far from home with limited resources, everything has potential value. Hyjin became fascinated with Draktai philosophy and history. She spent hours learning about their ancient achievements, their art, their complex social structures based on honor and tradition. Your culture values perfection, she observed. Ours values adaptation. Yes, Velinara agreed. We believe there is one correct way to do everything. You believe there are many ways, and the best one is whatever works in your current situation. The cultural exchange was not always smooth. Some crew members worried about sharing human knowledge with an alien who might use it against them. Others wanted to claim salvage rights to the advanced alien technology. During one heated discussion in the station's meeting room, crew member Dalsu argued that they should keep Velinara prisoner until Earth Command could study her ship. She could be a spy, he said. How do we know her empire will not use what she learns here to attack human colonies? Sora looked around the room, at her crew. Because if we act with fear and suspicion, we become the kind of people who deserve to be attacked. If we act with trust and friendship, we might gain an ally instead of an enemy. Velinara had been quietly listening to the translation of the discussion. When it was finished, she spoke carefully. I understand your fears. My people would have the same concerns. But I have seen something here that gives me hope for both our races. She gestured toward Jaewu, who was embarrassed by the attention. This human repaired my ship not because he wanted reward or recognition. He did it because he saw something broken and wanted to fix it. He worked day and night to save the life of someone he had never met, someone who was not even the same species. Her scales shimmered with colors that Hyjin had learned indicated deep emotion. If humans can show such kindness to strangers, perhaps there is hope that our peoples can work together instead of fighting over the same stars. The meeting ended with an agreement to continue helping Velinara while keeping Earth Command informed of their activities. But the real breakthrough came later that evening. Jaewu was working on the ship's navigation system when Velinara approached him with a small device in her hands. This is a memory crystal from my personal collection, she said. It contains technical specifications for Draktai shield generators, weapon systems, and faster-than-light drives. Jaewu stared at the device. Such technology could revolutionize human space travel and defense. Why are you giving this to me? Because you fixed my ship without asking for payment. Because you worked to save my life before you even knew who I was. Because you represent the best of what humans can be. She pressed the crystal into his hands. My people forgot that knowledge grows when it is shared, not when it is hoarded. You have reminded me of something my ancestors knew, but we have forgotten. What is that? True strength comes from cooperation, not domination, from building up others, not tearing them down. As Jae-woo accepted the gift, both of them felt that something important was beginning. Not just friendship between individuals, but the first steps toward understanding between two very different civilizations. Outside the ship, Frontier Station Echo continued its quiet orbit around a distant star. None of them realized that their small acts of trust and cooperation would soon echo across the galaxy, changing the course of interstellar relations forever. But that night, for the first time in months, Princess Velanara fell asleep without worrying about the future of her people. 3 weeks had passed since Princess Velanara arrived at Frontier Station Echo. Most of her ship's systems were working better than they had in decades, but one crucial component remained beyond repair. The quantum biological power core that served as the heart of the Starfire's dream was slowly dying. Jae-woo stood before the massive organic structure in the ship's deepest chamber. The core was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. It pulsed with faint light like a giant heart made of crystal and living tissue, but the rhythm was weak and irregular, like a patient in the final stages of a long illness. "How long does it have?" he asked. Velanara touched the core's surface gently, her scales shifting to sad blue colors. "Days, perhaps hours. When it dies completely, the ship becomes nothing more than a tomb. All the repairs you have made will be useless without power to run them." She looked at him with desperate hope in her golden eyes. "My people's greatest engineers have studied cores like this for centuries. They all say the same thing. Once the biological components begin to fail, there is no way to revive them." Jae-woo walked slowly around the core, studying it from every angle. His scanner showed complex readings that made no sense according to human science. The structure was part machine, part living organism, and part something else entirely. "What does it need to survive?" he asked. "Energy, nutrients, some kind of biological catalyst that we no longer know how to create. The secret died with the ancient engineers who built ships like this." Jae-woo knelt down and placed his hand on the core's surface. It was warm but growing cooler. He could feel the life leaving it, like watching a flower slowly wilt. "Hyjin," he called over his radio. "I need you to research everything we have about biological life support systems. Look at hydroponics, medical equipment, anything that keeps living things alive in artificial environments. What are you thinking?" Sora asked. "This core is not just a machine. It is a living creature that has been slowly starving for centuries. If I can figure out what it needs to eat, maybe I can feed it." Dongmin brought him equipment from the station's medical bay and agricultural section. Jae-woo began analyzing the core's biological components, looking for clues about what kind of nutrients it required. The work was frustrating. Every test gave him contradictory results. The core seemed to need elements that did not exist, energy and forms that human science could not provide, biological processes that defied understanding. But Jae-woo had learned something important during his weeks working on alien technology. When human logic failed, he had to think like the aliens who built it. "Velanara, tell me about your people's biology. What do you eat? How do your bodies process energy?" She explained that the Draktai absorbed energy directly from their environment, supplementing it with rare minerals found only on their homeworld. Their bodies were efficient fusion reactors, converting matter into energy at the cellular level. "The core was designed to mimic our biological processes," she said. "It should be able to sustain itself the same way we do." Jae-woo studied the mineral composition of supplements that Velanara used to maintain her health. Then he began experimenting, mixing human nutrients with alien minerals, trying to create something the core could absorb. His first attempts failed completely. The core rejected the crude mixtures, and its condition continued to deteriorate. But Jae-woo noticed something interesting. Each time he introduced new nutrients, the core would briefly respond before rejecting them. "It wants to live," he told Velanara. "It is trying to accept what I am giving it, but something is missing." The breakthrough came when he realized that the core was not just hungry for nutrients, it was lonely. Like the ship's computer, it had been designed to work in harmony with other biological systems. It was failing not just from starvation, but from isolation. "I need to go inside," he announced. Everyone stared at him as if he had lost his mind. "The core circulation system is like blood vessels," he explained. "If I can get inside the main channel, I can deliver nutrients directly to where they are needed. But more importantly, I can provide the biological contact it is craving." "That is suicide," Sora said flatly. "You do not know what those fluids will do to a human body." "It is the only chance we have," Jae-woo replied. "The core is going to die anyway. At least this way we try something." Velanara grabbed his arm with her clawed hand. "I cannot ask you to risk your life for my ship. You are not asking, I am choosing." It took 2 hours to prepare. Jae-woo put on a modified environmental suit that would protect him from the core's biological fluids while allowing limited contact with his skin. He carried a backpack full of nutrient solutions and monitoring equipment. The entrance to the core circulation system was barely wide enough for a human to crawl through. The walls were soft and warm, pulsing gently around him as he moved deeper into the heart of the alien ship inside the main chamber. Jae-woo found himself in a cathedral of living light. The core's interior was hollow, filled with glowing fluid that moved in complex patterns. Organic conduits stretched in all directions like the branches of an enormous tree. He began injecting his nutrient solutions into the flowing streams. At first, nothing happened. Then, slowly, the light began to grow brighter. "It is working," Velanara's voice crackled over his radio. "The core's vital signs are improving." But the real magic happened when Jae-woo removed his gloves and let his bare hands touch the flowing liquid. The core's biological systems recognized the presence of another living creature and began to respond. The chamber filled with music, harmonics that vibrated through Jae-woo's bones and made his heart race with joy. The core was singing, expressing emotions it had not felt for centuries. "What is happening in there?" So-ra asked. "It is happy," Jae-woo said, tears streaming down his face inside his helmet. "It remembers what it was like to be alive." The healing process took hours. Jae-woo moved through the core circulation system like a doctor performing surgery on a patient the size of a building. He delivered nutrients to starving components, cleared blockages from clogged conduits, and provided the biological contact that the core needed to remember how to live. When he finally emerged, the entire ship had transformed. Colors flowed through the walls like aurora. Systems that had been dormant for millennia came back online, and the core's song filled every corridor with joy. Velanara stared at her ancestral ship in wonder. "I have never seen it like this." Even in the ancient records, there is no description of such beauty. The ship's computer spoke for the first time in centuries, its voice like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. Through Hyjin's translation, they learned that the Starfire's dream was more alive now than it had been when first created. "How is that possible?" Velanara asked. Jae-woo, exhausted but triumphant, tried to explain. "Your ancestors built this ship to work with Draktai biology alone. But when I introduced human biological patterns, it learned new ways to process energy and information." He gestured to the walls around them, which now displayed patterns that seemed to blend alien and human design elements. "It has become something new. Not purely Draktai and not purely human, but a combination of both. Something stronger than either species could create alone." Word of the successful repair spread quickly through the station. Crew members who had initially been suspicious of the alien visitor now looked at Jae-woo with something approaching. You brought a dead ship back to life," Dongmin said. "I have been in the salvage business for 20 years, and I have never seen anything like it." But the most important reaction came from Velanara herself. She approached Jae-woo as he cleaned up his equipment, her scales shimmering with colors he had never seen before. "My people have legends about the ancient ship singers, engineers who could communicate directly with our vessel's living systems. We thought they were myths." She knelt before him in a gesture that clearly indicated deep respect. "You are not just a mechanic, Jae-woo Kim. You are something my people thought was lost forever." You are a ship singer, and you have given my family's vessel a new song to sing. Outside the ship, Frontier Station Echo continued its orbit. But inside the Starfire's dream, ancient magic had been reborn through human ingenuity and alien wisdom. Working together, the universe would never be quite the same. The Starfire's dream was ready to leave. After a month of repairs, the ancient ship hummed with more life and power than it had possessed in centuries. Princess Velanara stood in the main hangar bay of Frontier Station Echo, saying goodbye to the humans who had become her friends. "I do not know how to thank you for what you have done," she said to Jae-woo. Her scales shifted through colors that Hyjin had learned meant deep gratitude mixed with sadness. Jae-woo wiped his hands on his jumpsuit and smiled. "Seeing your ship alive again is thanks enough. Besides, I learned as much from working on it as you did from watching me fix it." Velanara reached into a pouch at her side and pulled out a small crystalline device that pulsed with inner light. This contains the location of 3 ancient Draktai supply depots. They hold technology and resources that could advance human civilization by centuries. She held out the crystal, but Jae-woo did not take it. "I appreciate the offer, Princess. But I did not fix your ship for a reward." "Then why did you do it?" Jae-woo thought for a moment. "Because it needed fixing." "Because you needed help. Sometimes that is reason enough." Velanara stared at him in amazement. In her culture, no one performed great deeds without expecting something in return. The concept of helping someone simply because it was the right thing to do was foreign to her people's way of thinking. "Your species is remarkable," she said finally. "My people could learn much from humans." Sora Park stepped forward in her crisp uniform. "Princess, you are welcome to return here anytime. Frontier Station Echo will always have a place for friends of humanity." "And you are welcome in Draktai space," Velanara replied. "Though I warn you, my return will cause significant political upheaval. Many will not believe what I have accomplished." Here, Dongmin had brought his salvage crew to see her off. "What will you tell your people about us?" "The truth. That humans possess a form of genius my empire has forgotten. That cooperation achieves more than conquest. That there are better ways to solve problems than following ancient traditions." Her expression grew determined. "I will tell them that the future belongs to those who are willing to learn from others, not those who believe they already know everything." The departure ceremony was simple, but moving. Velanara embraced each of the humans in turn, a gesture that would have been unthinkable for Draktai royalty under normal circumstances. When she hugged Jae-woo, she whispered something in her own language that the translation device did not pick up, but her meaning was clear in her golden eyes. "You have changed everything." The Starfire's dream lifted gracefully from the hangar bay, its hull shimmering with new patterns of light. As it prepared to jump to faster-than-light travel, the ship sang one final song of gratitude that resonated through the station's hull. Then it was gone, leaving only empty space and the memory of beautiful music. Life on Frontier Station Echo slowly returned to normal. Jae-woo went back to fixing mining equipment and cargo haulers. Dongmin's crew resumed their salvage operations. Hyjin compiled her notes on Draktai, language and culture, but everything had changed in subtle ways. The station's computer systems worked more efficiently after their contact with the alien ship's core. Equipment that should have failed continued operating beyond its expected lifespan. Problems that once seemed impossible to solve yielded to creative solutions inspired by alien engineering principles. "It is like the ship left behind some of its knowledge," Sora observed during a staff meeting 2 weeks after Velanara's departure. Jae-woo was working on a new project in his spare time, trying to apply organic design principles to the stations. Aging life support systems? The work was slow but promising. "Maybe it did," he said. "Or maybe we just learned to think differently about what is possible." Reports began filtering in from long-range communications. Trade negotiations between human colonies and minor alien civilizations were proceeding more smoothly than expected. Several first-contact situations that might have turned hostile had been resolved peacefully. "Word is spreading about our successful interaction with Princess Velanara," Hyjin reported. Other species are starting to see humans as potential partners rather than primitives to be ignored. But the real changes were happening far from human space. In the heart of the Draktai Empire, Princess Velinara's return had indeed caused political upheaval. Her success in reviving the Starfire's dream challenged everything her people believed about technology and progress. Traditional engineers declared her claims impossible, but the evidence was literally singing in their faces. The ship's transformation had not gone unnoticed. When Velinara arrived at the imperial capital, crowds gathered to see the vessel that pulsed with new life. Ancient ship spirits that had been silent for generations began responding to her presence. Awakening from centuries of dormancy. Emperor Kethver, Velinara's father, summoned her to the crystal throne as soon as she arrived. "Explain to me how a primitive human succeeded where our greatest minds have failed," he demanded. Velinara stood before the assembled court and told her story. She spoke of human ingenuity, of cooperation between species, of the power that came from combining different perspectives. "The humans did not succeed because they knew more than us," she concluded. "They succeeded because they were willing to try things we would never consider. They saw possibilities where we saw only limitations." Lord Kexther, her former betrothed, sneered from his place among the nobility. "You expect us to believe that? Savages from a backward world accomplished what our scientists could not. I expect you to look at my ship and explain how it sings with voices that have been silent for 1,000 years. Velinara replied calmly. The court erupted in arguments. Traditional factions insisted that Draktai superiority could not be questioned. Progressive voices argued that Velinara's success proved the Empire needed to change its approach to technology and diplomacy, but the Emperor was looking at his daughter with new eyes. She had left as a rebellious princess fleeing an unwanted marriage. She had returned as a leader who had accomplished the impossible. "What do you propose we do with this knowledge?" he asked. "Establish formal diplomatic relations with humanity. Send our engineers to learn from theirs. Share our knowledge in exchange for their creativity." She stepped forward, her scales bright with determination. "Father, our empire is dying because we are too proud to admit we do not have all the answers. The humans showed me that strength comes from cooperation, not domination. If we do not learn from them, other species will, and we will be left behind." The debate continued for days. But gradually opinion shifted in Velinara's favor. Too many ship spirits were awakening. Too many ancient systems were responding to the hybrid techniques she had learned, unknown to the humans on Frontier Station Echo. Their simple act of kindness had triggered the first major reform movement in Draktai history. An empire that had been slowly collapsing was beginning to rediscover the curiosity and adaptability that had made it great. Meanwhile, in his small workshop, Jae-woo continued working on his latest project. He had no idea that his reputation as a ship singer was spreading across the galaxy, or that his approach to problem-solving was being studied by alien engineers on a dozen worlds. He was just a mechanic who liked fixing broken things, but sometimes fixing one broken thing could change everything else. 3 months after Princess Velinara's departure, long-range sensors detected multiple contacts approaching Frontier Station Echo. The signatures were unfamiliar but clearly artificial, unknown. "Vessels requesting permission to dock," the communications officer reported to Sora Park. "Can you identify them?" "Negative, Commander. But they are broadcasting what appears to be a diplomatic frequency." Sora looked out at the stars and wondered what new adventures were heading their way. In the maintenance bay, Jae-woo felt a familiar excitement building in his chest. Something told him that his quiet life as a frontier mechanic was about to become much more interesting. 1 year after Princess Velinara first arrived at Frontier Station Echo, the sensors detected something that made everyone stop what they were doing. A fleet of ships was approaching from deep space, their elegant curves and flowing lines unmistakably Draktai in design, but these were not the damaged, desperate vessels that usually limped into frontier stations. These ships gleamed with health and power, their hulls singing with the same vibrant energy that Jae-woo had restored to the Starfire's dream. 12 vessels, Commander, the sensor operator reported to Sora Park, all showing active weapon systems but broadcasting diplomatic codes. At the center of the formation flew a ship that made everyone gasp in recognition. The Starfire's dream had returned, but it was not alone. Escort vessels flanked it on all sides, bearing the royal insignia of the Draktai Empire. "This is Princess Velinara of the House of Stars. Requesting permission to dock," came the familiar musical voice over the communications channel. "I have returned as promised, and I bring greetings from the Draktai Empire to our human friends." The main hangar bay had been hastily cleared and decorated for the occasion. When the Starfire's dream settled onto the deck, its hull pulsed with colors that seemed to express joy at being home. Princess Velinara emerged from her ship, but she was not the desperate refugee who had left a year before. She wore ceremonial armor that gleamed like liquid metal, and her scales had taken on new patterns that spoke of high rank and great accomplishment. Behind her came a delegation of Draktai nobles and engineers, their eyes wide with curiosity. As they examined the humble human space station, Jae-woo stepped forward from the crowd of station personnel, still wearing his grease-stained jumpsuit. Princess Velinara's face lit up with happiness when she saw him. "Jae-woo Kim, ship singer of humanity," she said formally, then broke into a smile. "My friend, you look exactly the same." "You look a little different," he replied, gesturing at her magnificent armor. "Promotion? You could say that. I am now the official ambassador to humanity, with full authority to negotiate treaties and establish joint ventures between our peoples." She gestured to the ships in the hangar bay. "I brought gifts." Over the next few hours, the gifts were revealed to be beyond anything the humans had imagined. Advanced shield generators that could protect entire star systems, medical technology that could heal injuries that would normally be fatal, manufacturing systems that could create materials stronger than anything in human space. But the most important gift was not technology. "We want to establish a permanent embassy here," Velinara announced during a formal ceremony in the station's main conference room. "Frontier Station Echo will become the first joint human Draktai facility, a place where our peoples can work together and learn from each other." Sora Park, now wearing the uniform of a newly promoted admiral, accepted the proposal on behalf of humanity. "We are honored by your trust, Princess, but why here? Why this small frontier station?" "Because this is where the impossible first became possible," Velinara replied. "This is where one human showed my people that there are always new ways to solve old problems." She turned to Jae-woo, who was trying to look invisible in the back of the room. "The ship singer taught us that the best technology is not the most advanced, but the most adaptable. Your approach to engineering has revolutionized our entire empire." An elderly Draktai stepped forward, his scales bearing the intricate patterns of high rank. "I am Master Engineer Velkoff. For 3 centuries, I studied the ancient ships and declared them beyond repair. Then I watched recordings of this human's work, and I realized I had been thinking about the problem incorrectly." He bowed deeply. To Jae-woo, "Will you teach us your methods?" What followed was the establishment of the first interstellar technical college. Human and Draktai engineers worked side by side, sharing knowledge and developing hybrid technologies that surpassed anything either species could create. Alone, Jae-woo found himself at the center of it all, though he insisted he was still just a mechanic who liked fixing things. "You are much more than that," Velinara told him during one of their daily walks through the expanded station. "Your influence has spread throughout our empire." Young Draktai engineers now study human improvisation techniques alongside traditional methods. "What about the old guard? The ones who wanted you to marry that Lord Fellow?" Velinara's scales shifted to colors that indicated satisfaction. "Lord Kexler challenged my authority when I returned. He claimed that alliance with humans showed weakness." "What happened?" "I challenged him to demonstrate superior engineering by repairing a damaged ship using only traditional methods. When he failed, I repaired the same ship using techniques. I learned from watching you work." She smiled, showing teeth that were sharp but not threatening. He now serves as my assistant, learning humility along with hybrid engineering principles. The changes were not limited to the Draktai Empire. Word of humanity's success in establishing peaceful relations with an advanced alien civilization spread throughout known space. Other species began approaching human colonies with offers of trade and cooperation. Dong Min Salvage operation had evolved into the premier ship repair facility in 3 sectors. His crews now worked on vessels from a dozen different species, applying human adaptability to alien technology. Never thought I would see the day when aliens would pay good money for human engineering services, he told Jae-woo while watching a crew of mixed human and Draktai technicians restore a damaged Cathari merchant vessel. Haijin had become the head of the new Department of Interspecies Communication. Her translation programs and cultural exchange protocols were being used throughout human space. The language barriers are falling faster than we ever imagined, she reported during a staff meeting. It turns out that most species want to communicate with us. We just needed to show them that we were worth talking to. But the most significant change was in Jae-woo himself. The quiet mechanic had become something he never expected to be. A teacher and leader in interstellar cooperation, students came from across the galaxy to learn from the human who had brought dead ships back to life. His workshops were always full of young engineers from multiple species, all eager to understand the principles of adaptive problem-solving. The secret is not in the tools or the techniques, he would tell them. The secret is in never giving up on something just because it seems impossible. One evening, as the artificial sunset painted the station's observation deck in warm colors, Jae-woo and Velanara stood watching the ships coming and going from the busy docking bays. "Do you ever regret running away from your arranged marriage?" he asked. "Every day," she replied, then laughed at his surprised expression. "I regret that I did not do it sooner." She gestured at the bustling activity around them. "If I had married Lord Kexther, I would have spent my life maintaining the status quo. Instead, I found a better way forward for my people." "And what way is that?" "Partnership instead of domination, cooperation instead of conquest, learning from others instead of assuming we have nothing left to learn." A new ship was approaching the station, its design unlike anything they had seen before. The hull was crystalline, refracting starlight into rainbow patterns. "The Zephyrian Collective," Velanara identified. "They have been watching our cooperation with great interest. I believe they want to join our alliance," Jae-woo sighed happily. "Looks like I will be learning about crystal-based technology next. Does that worry you? Are you kidding?" "I cannot wait to see how their ships work. I bet they have problems that need fixing." Velanara laughed, her scales shimmering with affection. "You have not changed at all, Jae-woo Kim. You are still the mechanic who cannot resist a challenge. And you are still the princess who was brave enough to trust a stranger to fix her ship." They stood together in comfortable silence, watching as the future approached their small station. Neither of them could have imagined, that first day when they met over a dying ship, that their friendship would reshape the balance of power in the galaxy. But sometimes the smallest acts of kindness have the biggest consequences. In the distance, more ships appeared on the horizon. The universe was full of broken things that needed fixing, and Frontier Station Echo Ha